Hi guys, how are you all?
Hello, great to be here.
Um, so today we're talking about RFID within the manufacturing space, and what we're going to do is we're going to keep this conversational. We're going to have a conversation between us all, and I'm going to ask just a series of questions. So, Joe, I'm going to start with you. Joe, what are the most significant developments in RFID today, and how are you seeing them being used in manufacturing?
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I think today what we found compared to years past, we're finding that the technology is a lot more accessible for every type of manufacturer, no matter how large you are. If you're a mid-tier manufacturer, all the way up to the Fortune 500 manufacturers, and it's an accessibility just based on the development from a hardware side and the tag side. The tags are a factor more sensitive than they were even a couple of years ago, based on the newer ICs that are being used in the tag development. The hardware has come down in price and availability. And then really, I think one of the key factors is the ability to integrate into business systems easily, using software that's more accessible, cloud-based solutions are out there now. And so that's been a real driving factor to make this something that used to be really expensive to get started in, more accessible and easier for everyone to roll out. So.
Perfect. It seems like we've been talking about RFID for forever, and we've always been saying that this is the year of RFID. I think we're finally starting to see that with a lot of RFID implementations. Can you share some recent success stories where RFID has been used and has made a big impact on a business process?
Yeah, so I think there in manufacturing, it opens up a lot of the different use cases for RFID can be used in manufacturing, whether that's tracking your raw materials, your inventory, your finished goods, WIP, shipment validation out the dock door. I think a good one to highlight would be work in process, right? So we've worked with some companies. I'll give an automotive example. So imagine cars needing accessories put on, and there's bays where that's done. Being able to give that manufacturer the insight as to how long it's taking for that vehicle to make it through that production phase, using RFID and not relying on a person to scan a barcode to enter that item into that cell, has just been a huge driving factor for a lot of our projects. I mean, it's across industries. We work with cabinet manufacturers where their customers want to find out, what stage is my cabinet in manufacturing, and they can quickly look and say, oh yeah, that's right now it's in finishing, or yeah, it's getting packed up right now, ready to go out tomorrow. And just being able to give that information back to the customer, and then also for the operations managers to be able to quickly address things that are taking too long, right? We can set thresholds for how long a product should be in a zone, and then report on that if something's there too long. And that's a tremendous value for customers and manufacturing.
And I think just to add to that, if I can,
Yeah, sure.
there's companies out there that today have runners, going to work cells and seeing where these jobs are at. They're managing thousands of jobs a day, and to have visibility as to real time visibility to where that job is within the process. Leveraging the technology, specifically RFID, it has been a huge uplift, in proficiencies and efficiencies within those business operations. So having that real time information is key, and getting those alerts, identifying potential bottlenecks as they're happening in real time is real key.
Yeah, that's a brilliant answer, and it kind of makes a segue into the next question, and I'll put it to you too, Ruben. You mentioned bottlenecks, and you mentioned the different zones. How are companies determining where to put the RFID readers within the facilities to track that movement?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it really comes down to where the higher visibility is needed, right? Where do you need to know what's happening within your facility, and also it comes down to the environment too, right? We still need to determine the best areas to place these antennas, and making sure identifying those areas and make sure it's something where the antenna and the reader will work well, provide that data, and then have that actionable information to then act on going forward. So it really just comes down to where do you need that data, where do you need that higher visibility, and then deploying the right technology in the right locations to give you that information.
Just to add a little to what Ruben just said, what we're finding today is that our customers know where their vulnerabilities are in their process, and they understand how much touching is required in order to maintain the levels of accuracy required to maintain the data in their inventory, warehouse management systems, and so on. So the ability to deliver this data in real time, I think, is what's changing the market right now.
Yeah.
So.
Excellent, thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just to add to that a little more, just because I mean Ruben touched on the environmental considerations. I mean our team, that's something that we focus on, and you know, we're not in the business of trying to read RFID tags that are blocked by metal or in a situation where we're going to have trouble reading them. So our team comes in and we do a really thorough job of evaluating the facility, evaluating the products we're tagging, understanding what that tag looks like from a performance standpoint, and then trying to understand how we can minimize the impact of the technology on the shop floor, so we're not interrupting any kinds of activities. One way we're doing that today is by putting a lot of the hardware in from overhead, and then bringing some of the technology above and keeping it out of the work cell. And we're able to do that with some of the new hardware out from Zebra with the ATR 7000 and some of the other products we have to do that.
Yeah, I think it's key to really set expectations and make sure everybody, you know, everybody's aligned on what to expect, and then for successful deployment.
Thank you very much. We kind of touched on work in progress already. Ruben, I'll come back to you for the next question. What are the best ways to track movement of those items or jobs through a manufacturing process?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways of accomplishing that task, but you know, generally what we've seen has been the biggest win within the work in process environment is actually tagging the traveler. You know, the work order paperwork that goes with the production order, as you're building these products, that moves with the product as it matures throughout the process. And to tag, you know, a traveler or a work order sheet, it's a piece of paper, putting a RFID label on that immediately, you know, it provides that visibility at each work cell. Setting up, as Joe talked about, setting up those thresholds to understand that, you know, generally in this environment, it's only there for X period of time. And if a job is there longer than that, you know, set off a trigger saying, hey, you may have potential delay here. Maybe you're missing raw materials. Maybe the machine's down. But having visibility real time on what's going on. So tagging the traveler is what we're seeing the most of. But I will tell you still can tag the physical items itself. It just really depends on the environment.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I'm sure most companies wouldn't have thought of tagging the traveler as opposed to tagging the actual product that they're trying to track. So yeah, it's an excellent point.
To add a little more to what Ruben's getting at here is one of the things we try to do as a team when breaking down and figuring out these solutions for our customers is how can we impact their process as little as possible. Therefore, we're leveraging the tribal knowledge that the people have that are doing the job. And we're eliminating the mundane work that they do daily, and we're using them to add value back to what the end result, right? Converting whatever it is you make to cash faster and delivering a great product to your customer in a timely manner. Now you've got the people in your organization dealing with exceptions as opposed to the mundane work, and we've really touched very little of their process. We've really changed very little, but created a lot of visibility to the assets that they need visibility of.
Thanks, Evan. And sticking with that theme of tracking movement of jobs, we know there's a real challenge today for companies to ensure that the right products are being shipped to their customers. How can RFID solve this challenge?
What's interesting, you know, this goes back to what I was touching on a little bit earlier. What we're finding today is that our customers' business process is pretty strong. Right? That they understand the evolution, the dynamics within their own environment. It's in their DNA. So what we want to do is leverage the human error out of that process. We want to eliminate the need for expedited shipping to customers because they were shipped the wrong part, or they were shipped, it didn't get out on time, or there was no asset visibility to the product in the first place. And what we're finding is that the level of touching required to maintain those levels of accuracy creates a lot of human labor and time, takes a lot of time. So by creating a smart label or an intelligent label, something that can be sensor based, something that your people are already putting on your products and packages already today, but then will allow us to strategically, as my team's kind of talked about here on this call, tactically deploy the solution in the areas where you have vulnerability within your process. That ability to do that with RFID is changing the nature of how a customer receives their goods today. I mean, since the pandemic, we've seen an evolution in how we as customers can buy, return, and receive in this multi-channel way of receiving goods today. Our manufacturers are looking for ways to deliver that kind of customer satisfaction to their end users to just the same. And we're approaching this by really touching their processes as little as possible and really allowing them to leverage what they have within their four walls, which is that dynamic tribal knowledge that then can really deliver an impact to what the customer receives on the other end.
Yeah, and go ahead, Ruben. I was going to say, that shipping validation is an important use case, because what we find is, if you ship the wrong product to one customer or one time that happens, it's a huge cost, right? And then there's all the soft costs of having to bring that shipment back or remanufacture that product or whatever that is. And to do that today, to manage that with a barcode, what we find is, customers can still scan the right product, scan the right place, and still put the pallet on the wrong truck, right? And then there's no really way of proving that unless you have an RFID tag on there that said, hey, stop, there's the wrong product on this truck, before it's 50 miles down the road. And what we find is that when we can do that very easily today, it's a long time use case. It's been out for RFID for a number of years. We have the largest deployments right now going live in the U.S. For shipment validation and tracking at dock doors. So something our team is really keyed in on. So
and some of that's requirements from the retailers that they're shipping it to, or the companies are shipping it to. That you've got to have that validation as you're shipping out your door, but also for those companies that are putting together all these different parts and pieces onto a pallet and shipping it out. If there's pieces missing and it goes on site, not only do you have an upset, client that you're delivering it to, but also you have potentially staff there to build something, to put something together and missing parts. You've got to, reallocate those resources to go back out there again. So the simple process of leveraging the sensor technology, mainly RFID here, as we're validating this going out the door, making sure all the correct parts are on there as there should be, has been huge for organizations to leverage.
Yeah, and that can be as simple as a handheld too.
Oh, sorry. Just to tie this one up, this is one of those. Thank you, Joe. This is one of those you can really crawl, walk, run with, right? We can start evaluating and understanding what's in your building and what went out with printers, labels, and handhelds. We can really start that simply and then move from there. So that was a great point, Joe.
Yep.
Joe, I'm going to come back to you with a couple of questions. What are the most common questions or concerns that you receive from customers for RFID implementations?
I'd say that the number one concern is generally the IT teams, right? And so you've got operations people that are trying to solve a problem that's real to them and matters for their productivity and their visibility into their inventory levels or whatever it is that they care about. And they're concerned that the project might go into somewhat of a black hole or something when they introduce the IT team. What we found is generally if we can just have that conversation with the IT team and give them a comfort level for where we're already deployed and some of the other projects we've already done for companies that are, for example, maybe contracted with the U.S. government and things like that, where there's a high sensitivity to the data. We've been through those conversations. We've been vetted on all of those types of things, and that's something that we generally, if we can get a conversation started sooner than later, it's not as big of a deal as people sometimes fear it might be. I think that's probably one of the main concerns. Another concern is, we hear a lot about RFID and is it real? Does it really work? I mean, we've been doing RFID for a long time. I can tell you that this technology works. In 2024, I think I touched on it earlier. I mean, we've got tags that are super sensitive. We've got all different shapes and sizes and RF patterns that we can produce with different antennas. And If there's an RFID tag that needs to be read, we'll find a way to read it. And generally speaking, our solutions are really highly reliable and more reliable than a person scanning a barcode. And that's what we're trying to go after here is that extra little bit of productivity, that extra little bit of accuracy and reliability of your data that we can get with RFID.
And I think just echoing what we talked about a little earlier really is level setting expectations and understanding, what we're trying to accomplish, what we're deploying, and what it's going to deliver, and make sure everybody's aligned on that messaging, so that everybody's on the same page, and that generally will support successful deployments.
Just to add just a little bit more, one of the things that we come across quite a bit are organizations that have tried RFID in the past, and it was not successful. There has been so much change in this industry just within the last 48 months that it is revolutionizing what can be done today with a paper label. We're seeing paper labels now in real time, sub-meter accuracy with infrastructure, and we are able to do a lot that we could not do even 3 years ago. So through mandates from large retailers and other manufacturers, the globe has decided the passive RFID tag is what we're going to use for visibility moving forward. I've been around other RFID technologies for almost 20 years, and I have never seen a gravitation towards a particular technology like I've seen here in the last 36 months. It is ramping up because it works. And the other part of this is we have the data to support the ROI, to support the deployment of these solutions. And it's not guesswork, it's not a science project anymore. These are real deployments we're doing every day, and we've got references and customers to share now. So I just thought I'd follow up with that.
And just on that theme, Ruben, I'll come to you. Do you have any upcoming collaborations or projects that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, we've got a few. So there's quite a bit of activity right now out there with RFID. But one is, I would say, returnable transport items, returnable totes, and tracking items along those lines, and making sure that what goes out comes back, and being able to maintain that inventory level and have that visibility to what's on hand versus what's incoming, and be able to track that. So that's one project we're working on that we're pretty excited about. The interesting thing about RFID is it touches so many different environments, but specifically within manufacturing, the real impact is having that visibility and being able to address real-time challenges right at the moment. And it's such different from where we came from, which is reacting after the fact and trying to make up for delays and whatnot that we could have addressed right in real time. So RFID is really driving that, and its manufacturing is, I would say, probably the most active with the RFID environment today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really interesting use case, because it's relatable to pretty much every company within the manufacturing space. Everyone has totes, everyone has returnable assets that they need to track, and they lose millions of every year. So it's a very good point.
Yeah, and two, what we find is if they can start to associate what's actually in those totes and give themselves some inventory visibility. We've got so much data coming in from these solutions, right? You're getting real-time visibility from all of these tags and understanding of your inventory levels, where your stuff is, throughput times, all of these different data points. And what we're finding that's really exciting is the latest projects we're working on are moving towards the analytics of this data, and how can we start to leverage AI, and how can we start to give you real insights in a new modern way, to be able to say, okay, yeah, this is what I need to reorder today. This is what's running behind. This is the vendor that's always late, and giving you that kind of data quickly without having to have a person or some sort of other analytics platform run those numbers for you. In today's world, that's the most exciting thing, I think, with RFID is you've got all this data, you've got the data collection happening automatically, and now what can you do with that to improve your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Evan, just Zebra are one of the leaders in the manufacturing and RFID space. How important are partnerships like those with Peak and Xemelgo?
Okay, so the guys sitting on this call right now are some of the thought leaders in passive RFID solutions today, right? In conjunction with an organization like Zebra, who's the manufacturer, we need partners like Xemelgo and Peak who are pushing solutions at the bleeding edge of technology to help drive our understanding of the demand needs in the market today, regardless of market, whether it's retail, it's manufacturing, it's auto manufacturing, or it's healthcare. It's the feedback that we get from this organization and this network of people that we work with, these integrators that are constantly driving technology, is what is feeding the data engine for Zebra, what is required and needed in the market today, and helping us expand. And really, in the case of Zebra, as Xemelgo and Peak, it's a matter of latching on with this brain trust and holding on for dear life, because these guys are driving what is happening today and really pushing what is possible with RFID. I'm watching Peak Technologies right now today use little paper labels to enable robot technology, making little AMRs that weren't smart before very intelligent and dynamic, enabling them to change their safety settings on the fly in order to feed that AI data back to material movement and material flow within my organization. It is a team like what is on this call today that helps drive that technology, and we really couldn't do it without it.
Thank you very much.
I think we feel the same way, Evan, and Zebra's been a tremendous partner for us in the solutions they have, and it goes all the way back to the printers, right? I mean, Zebra's got the #1 RFID printer in the market, and it's a phenomenal solution there. I think, Evan, that was very kind, but the important thing that you mentioned there was the ability to integrate this technology with some of the other technologies, right? So, I mean, robotics, vision. Right now we're doing a lot with RFID and vision, where we can, if we've got an automated receiving solution going with RFID, we can also combine that with a vision quality inspection at receipt. So that means as your products come in from your supplier, not only do you know what you have, you can also take a picture, maybe in 3 dimensions, and get a visual of the quality of that product. And that's been a very fast growing and exciting collaboration that we're working on with our vision team here at Peak. And the same goes for the robotics side that you touched on, and being able to automate direction and have a robot go where it's supposed to go, or do what it needs to do based on an RFID read is something that's happening today, in real time, like you mentioned. So,
and I think that if you look at, from a partnering perspective, Zebra's, elite manufacturer in this space and develops tremendous products and constantly pushes the edge of technology and offers us those opportunities to leverage that to support our software type of deployments. From Peak standpoint, being a global deployment, organization, and having the technical knowledge to, support and configure for companies that need that help, need that assistance, and then providing that. And then from us, really working down at the application layer, addressing, unique business challenges specifically with software to provide them, higher visibility and allow for higher efficiencies within their production or working environments.
Sorry, Simon, it was recently stated by Gartner that organizations today, that enterprise asset visibility is no longer an option, and that organizations today should seek out vendors with complex toolboxes to manage the complex environments in which we work. Right? Because we can be anywhere from a retail office space to an oil rig at the deep sea drilling out in the middle of the ocean, right? I mean, those are the types of environments that we play in, and we play in them pretty regularly as a team. So it's partnering with a team or an organization that has access to many different types of technologies, because, not all my technologies can solve all the problems that are out there, but working with an organization like Peak and a software like Xemelgo puts you in a unique position to really bring your solution home and be best in class, best in breed in what you deliver to your organization with confidence. So.
We've touched on obviously the use cases within manufacturing. What I'd like to do for the last couple of questions is focus on the hardware side of things, and then Ruben, I'll come to you to answer some questions about Xemelgo and the software platform. Evan and Joe, you can decide who wants to answer this one, but we touched on the ATR hardware very, very early on in this conversation. What are the main differences you're seeing now with that type of technology from the traditional passive RFID portal-based readers to the new ATRs?
Do you want to take this one, man? This was like life changing for me, buddy.
Hey, so go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, it's a careful consideration, right? So the ATR 7000, it's an overhead reader that's got an array of antennas that calculate angle of arrival, right? And so we can basically calculate movement and direction from overhead. And what we find is with the right products at the right level, I mean, we're generally talking about like a pallet level or a rack or something large going through a dock door. We can put that ATR 7000 up between the dock doors and cover 2 dock doors with one ATR 7000, and it dramatically reduces the amount of infrastructure needed, the amount of install time to get this stuff up, and what it also does is it can provide an ability to cover a multitude of dock doors with a single solution and not interrupt your workflow. So it's enabled companies to get ROI where before there was no ROI because of the cost of the infrastructure. And so that's something that's been taking off and growing for us. We've got some of the largest installs going right now with the ATR 7000 in that use case. We talked about partners. You want to make sure you're working with the right partner when you're working on this type of stuff. A good partner is going to go through and spend the time to understand your environment, to understand your workflow and the processes, because I think we can get caught up really quickly on the hardware side of things and on the tag side of things, and that stuff needs to be figured out, and the right team will help you figure that out. But it really comes down to the process and how your product moves and how that tag is generated, where it gets applied to your pallet, how does that pallet come in and out, and where's your staging? Because if you have staging right next to the dock door, the ATR 7000 might not be the best solution for you. And so you need to have a team there to understand, okay, what type of dock door is this? Does it roll up? Does it roll back? Do we have air conditioning units or heaters up in the ceiling there blocking the pattern? Are there signs hung too low? I mean, this is real life stuff that we deal with to make sure this is going to be a good solution. But in the right environment, on the right conditions, it's a huge game changer for how we deploy passive RFID at the dock door. Go ahead.
Just to add a little to what Joe just said, this allows us to track a paper label in real time. Okay, passive RFID has been what I'd call near real time for the last 20 years, right? I could see an item move through a choke point in time where I have a reader sitting there and it's following a business workflow, and now I can see it later in this other area where I've got vulnerability and I'm capturing it where it's important. An ATR 7000 allows a passive label that's been printed out of a printer, the ability for us to see it move as it's moving in real time. This used to require a battery, like your cell phone communicating over GPS. So this was a game changer in what we do today because it delivers directionality without extra equipment. Now I know what direction that this item is moving, and it's moving through what we call virtual zones, which allows us to greatly change and enhance or make dynamic your environment in your work environment. Right? Because we can now create virtual zones and see things move and trigger workflow based on where items are moving throughout your process. And we don't need them everywhere. Just like the rest of passive RFID, we use these devices tactically within your facilities to deliver the data where we need it, where it's most critical.
Yeah.
This tool wasn't available even just 3 years ago. So things have changed dramatically.
I was going to say I should clarify a little bit my comment on the staging. I mean, we do have solutions with the ATR 7000 where we can actually create virtual staging lanes with the ATR 7000 and give you visibility to where your product's going to go. More along the lines of we need to make sure that we understand that process and where stuff is, and if it's stuff we care about or if it's stuff we don't. And I think one of the big things with RFID, and maybe it's one of the things that people ask about, or maybe they don't think to ask about, it's great. We can read RFID tags, but what we find is that it's actually not the tags that we're reading that we don't read are a problem. It's the tags that we're reading that we don't want to read that are the problem, right? So it's a little bit of a mix up there, and people are thinking, oh, well, you're never going to see a tag. Yeah, we'll see the tag, and the issue is we need to have those filters built. We have to have the infrastructure aligned in a way that's going to eliminate rogue reads, as we call them, because honestly, that's the biggest pitfall in RFID systems that we try to accommodate for, and our solutions do, right? We have our solutions in a 97, 98, 99% readability rate here. And that's, you can only achieve that if you're not accidentally reading tags that are in the other dock door, because your antennas are powered up too high, or because you don't have your filters set right. And that's all the stuff that our team works with each other on to make sure that we have a working solution at the end of the day.
Thanks, guys. That was an excellent answer from both of you. And it's good to clarify the differences with the newer hardware and the benefits that it brings. And Ruben, come to you next. We've talked hardware, we've talked tags. How does the software, the Xemelgo software in particular, bind that all together?
Yeah, I think that it's really leveraging the technology that's available, right? And where we're at today is such a incredible place from where we were. I've been, as Evan mentioned, I've been involved with RFID for the last 20 years myself, and it's incredible where we're at today and how well these systems perform. And we're leveraging that sensor-based technology. We're ingesting that data out on the front lines of operations, and what that's giving companies is that valuable insight, to take action to, right? Actionable insights, right, that they can leverage to make more informed business decisions. So our software enables companies to track that WIP process as it goes from work cell to work cell, to identify bottlenecks if they're happening along the way. Also, we can address, whether it's tracking assets and making sure that tools that are being used on the lines are being calibrated as they're supposed to, and they're staying 100% in compliance. Giving the ability to geofence areas using the technology to identify where that asset may have moved to, and potentially alert if it's moving to a zone that it generally shouldn't move to, and providing that visibility again to the team. Inventory levels, tracking min-max levels of raw materials or finished goods, and understanding, that you have your handle on that, and understand that you need to reorder, replenish as products go low. So at the end of the day, I think Evan and Joe would agree, it just comes back to higher visibility. And the only way you're going to get there is leveraging this technology, because it's hands-free. It's not adding any additional work. It's automating the process to allow your team to do other things that they need to be more engaged with. Whereas the technology can do the work, and that's what we're leveraging.
Yeah, I'll just comment real quick on Xemelgo's value. One thing that I find is, and I've touched on it already, is that the process is an important thing, and what it comes down to is rules. And it's one thing to read an RFID tag and say, yeah, I saw this RFID tag here. It's another thing to actually influence a process and say, yeah, this tag is here, and now what? Okay, this tag's here and it shouldn't be, or this tag's here and it's been here too long. And have those kinds of automated application layer of a software solution built into the Xemelgo side that's actually controlling the readers. What that does is it allows us to take that data and either operate in a standalone environment with Xemelgo's fantastic UI that comes with the product, or integrate that data directly into the back-end ERP system or manufacturing system or whatever's back-end software we care about to ingest that data. That's been a huge factor for us. And a lot of companies do like the fact that Xemelgo can operate standalone. And I'd say, 50, 60% of them start off that way, right? Where we're doing very little back-end integration. We're bringing a real solution with everything that they need to get the value. And then as they start to get a comfort level with the technology, they start to understand how this works in their environment. Then we start to look at a deeper integration with their back-end system. And it's very straightforward there too, because we've got all of the modern API integrations that we're capable of doing. And then also, flat file drops. I mean, we'll work with the team to figure out a good way to get that data from Xemelgo into the back end system, or operate standalone, and it works great both ways. So.
And I think also, just to add what Evan said earlier about crawl, walk, run, the ability to get in, utilizing the software and the hardware, to get yourself comfortable, to see those wins, to see that visibility. And once that happens, we have companies that started with 3 readers at their dock doors, and that same company has over 250 readers across 2 facilities, tracking every nook and cranny of their facility. And they're doing it because the ROI is there, the value is there, and that visibility is key for them. So we're allowing organizations to start small and then grow into what they're comfortable with and move at their own pace. And our software allows that, and the technology is there to support that.
Just to add to what the team has said about this, it's important for everyone out there to understand that a solution is made up of 3 primary components. Your business process. We are going to lean heavily on the behavior of your people and what they do. Hardware, the technology used to read and sense, and then the software that's required to operationalize that data that we collect. And that is the guys are talking about is we're operationalizing that data. We're making it useful, and we're having an impact on your customer sat, on your delivery, on your expedite fees. We're lowering your lost items. You're going, your inventory accuracy is now legitimately in the 99% range. So that is what we do on a daily basis, and it really requires the trinity, so to speak, of those 3 things: cooperation and candidness from our customers, understanding the process and the pain of which they're going through, and how deep does that pain run. When this happens, how many people are impacted? This is how we begin to build the ROI. This is how we work with our customers, and we build the case of why this technology is so critical. And it starts to become a conversation of not what could this potentially, what is the return on this? Could this possibly be? The conversation becomes more, how much is this costing you to continue to do it the way you've done it for the last 25 years?
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's what I was just going to say.
These are all hard numbers. These are hard numbers. These are not soft costs.
What's the cost of doing nothing, right? Of not doing
that's
it.
a
What are you
real
spending
thing
today?
now, right?
Yeah,
now that I can put an antenna in that paper label that you're using already, what is the cost to continue to keep doing it the way you've been doing it? Right?
I'll tell you what, because if you're not, this team is selling it to your competitor probably, right? And they
That's
are.
absolutely
so
right.
All of a sudden you're at a disadvantage, right? As far as So it's just something to consider. Yep.
Just conscious of time, I'm going to ask one last question, and I'm going to open up to everyone, and then we'll move over to the audience for some questions that have come in. So this is to all 3. Where do you see the future of RFID technology over the next 5 years?
I see it broadly adopted, from all verticals, all environments, but specifically within manufacturing. The advantages they're seeing today are just going to continue to expand, and the technology is going to continue to evolve. I mean, we're going to have more capabilities even than we have today. So I don't see this train stopping. I see it's picking up and this being adopted in a lot more places. I don't know. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be adopted in more places. I think also, we're going to see more sensors incorporated into the RFID tags. I mean, right today we can give you a temperature reading when we read an RFID tag. That was something we couldn't do a few years ago. Super cool stuff that's coming out. I also think, if you ask me, I think that you're going to see passive UHF RFID capability in the consumer-based phone sometime in the next few years. I do believe that's coming. And when that happens, the technology is going to be even more ubiquitous than it is today. So, I think there's a lot that could happen here in the coming years, and it's sort of our job to stay on top of that and to understand and try to, swish through what's real and what's vapor and what's important and what works. And so what we're finding, I think, across the board is that if we stick to what we know with the Zebra solutions and the fixed readers and the ATR 7000 and the handheld solutions, honestly, we're getting just such tremendous reliability and just the experience level with the technology is there is just right now that seems to be the key, is to stick with what works and then expand from there as we can.
Just to add a little bit to what Joe has to say, what we're seeing here at Zebra is we've had a decade-long connected worker campaign, getting mobile computers to the edge where people do business today. And we're seeing proof points in the market that AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So we are those products that are feeding the AI. The data that we're collecting today in the passive RFID tags with RFID today is going to be what's feeding the AI in real time, and material movement changes and movement pathways and dynamic changes, dynamic docks, dynamic cross docks are all going to be something in the future. And the future is not that far away. The future is literally right around the corner. Now, at Zebra, we've been doing automated data capture with scanning a barcode for over 50 years, right? So, you scan a barcode, I know where this item is in real time. I have it, I'm touching it right now. So real-time location, real-time data capture is in our DNA. And that's why we work with companies like Xemelgo and Peak to help keep us on the edge there, so the bleeding edge of what's going on, so that we stay competitive in this market, and we see this market doing nothing but expanding. And these labels doing nothing but enabling our customers to deliver their products and convert those products to cash faster for those organizations. And we see it coming like a wave, the same wave we saw hitting back with the barcode back in the 80s. We see it coming again, because we're really talking about changing nothing but the intelligence of the label you're already using today. So we're excited here at Zebra.
No,
we see a lot of potential and opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great answer, Evan. And I was going to say too, like we talked about it a few minutes ago, but just the integration of RFID with other technologies, I think, is going to be something that's going to be, we're going to see more and more of as we move forward here, with integration with vision, integration with robotics, integration with AI, data analytics, all this stuff. Right. And
do you remember when we started this, Joe? It was like a hybrid solution meant you were using two types of RFID technology. Now a hybrid solution means you're using camera vision, fixed industrial scanning, passive RFID, all in one solution to make sure this product is born and stamped and ends up at the customer's hands with them happy and smiling on the other end, man. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant answers all around, and thank you guys. I'm conscious of time. We're just about out, so we're going to wrap it up there. And I just want to thank you all for your wisdom and experience today. It's been amazing. I know I've learned a lot from it. It's been a fantastic discussion. So thank you to our panelists. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the audience. I'm going to have a look through the Q&A, and then we'll answer some questions just in a couple of seconds once we've read through them all. Just reading through some of the questions, some really, really good questions have come in here. So I'm going to start with Jeff. You've been very patient. This came in straight away. But Jeff asks, way back when RFID first came out, we had executives who wanted to be able to pulse the warehouse. So basically knowing where items were located within the building. And he basically wants to know, has the technology changed to make this more feasible? And this probably ties into what we were talking about around the ATR and the new advances with the triangulation, I suppose, as opposed to reading at dock doors.
Or you want to take this one, Joe, or I can take it?
Well, I was going to let you take it, but no, it's all right.
Well, no,
honestly, I think it's still probably a little bit of a situation where that's not happening a whole lot, right? Where we're giving you a full snapshot. I mean, it's possible. It depends a little bit on what your products are, how big your warehouse is, how high your ceilings are, where we can put the technology. What we're finding, I think, to get to that deeper, more granular level is leveraging other technologies, whether it's a drone or some other type of technology, and then integrating that data in with the RFID. Most of the time, our solutions, we're still providing that in and out of an aisle or in and out of an area, and then shrinking that granularity level down by adding more readers and giving you that last known location. So as you put that product away, where was the last time I saw it? Now I know where I can go back and find it. And it's a big thing, right? I mean, Ruben, we hear a lot from our customers, that we put in these really advanced RFID systems, and they're really enamored with the handheld that lets them go find something that's missing, and all the time they save looking. So go ahead, Evan, if you had something else.
Well, I was just going to say that the power in that handheld today, though, really leverages that crawl walk, right? So even just 5 years ago, if I had a handheld and I scanned something in space, I would know that I scanned it, but I wouldn't know where I scanned it within the building, right? With RFID today, you can tie with Google location services to the handheld indoor location within 6 feet of where I scan this item, and virtualizing those areas with like Xemelgo to have big zones internally where I'm really narrowing down. There's ways to do it today we couldn't do it even 24 months ago. So by combining all of these different technologies into a handheld that's going to be delivering location services indoor and outdoor, it's pretty amazing stuff, and it's pretty exciting. So it is site dependent, it is infrastructure dependent, it is Wi-Fi cellular dependent. I mean, there's lots of pieces and parts to breaking down something like that, but our ability to do it versus how we did it 5 years ago is dramatically changed, and maybe more cost effective with a second look.
And even location labels is another way of getting closer to it, is having location labels on the racks and using the RSSI signal strength and identifying when you read that tag, which location label have you been closest to, and then marry those two together. So you're not going to get down to the bin location, but you're going to get really close right now. And there's definitely opportunities to enhance on that.
Yeah, and honestly, to even go a little deeper than that, Ruben, we can get down to bin location level when we start putting the RFID technology onto a put-away vehicle like a fork truck or a high-low or whatever it is. And when we do that, then we can all of a sudden give you where's the last location tag I read when I put that product away. And then we can get really granular that way.
But what you're hearing is that we're establishing location not with electronic technology and beacons, but with paper labels. We're establishing zones and beacons. So the cost for infrastructure to break it down in the kind of the way we're spitballing this on this call has really changed because of the dynamic nature of the software and what it can do and what it can make that paper label in that particular spot on that particular piece of infrastructure mean in your system, right? That just 2 years ago really didn't work or make sense. So I would recommend, Jeff, taking a second look at this with a team that really knows what they're doing. So
yeah, we'll be in touch, Jeff. Perfect. So the next one has come in from Kate, and this kind of ties in. It's a nice segue to what you were discussing, Joe, a few minutes ago. But essentially, Kate asks, do you see a marriage of RFID and camera analytics going forward in the future? Really, really good question. It feels like something that would work well together, and we're obviously seeing it out there in the wild.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little while ago, right? It's a big thing. It's actually happening now. You're doing this today where we're giving quality inspection at the time of receipt or going even secondary quality inspection. So we bring a product in through a dock door, we scan it with the RFID tag, and we take a picture. And then maybe it sits in staging for a while, and that's an opportunity for that product to get damaged, maybe by a fork truck driving by or any other type of process. And that product needs to go into storage in the warehouse. So sometimes we're taking another picture then, the RFID tag going into the warehouse, give you another step, another stage, another place you can go back and have that breadcrumb trail of where has this product been and what's this quality. So I do more of it. I see more, again, combining of technologies to provide a full solution. That's something that's really our team's really focused on. So
from our standpoint, we're all about sensor fusion and really taking in any type of sensor technology that's out there, whether it's BLE, GPS, RFID, barcoding, or machine vision. And we're using it today in the manufacturing lines where we're identifying resources. So when we have a slowdown, let's say at a work cell where we're not hitting those time thresholds, we can have our camera look at that area and see if a resource is there working at that work cell or not, or just marrying it up their time working on and completing a task associated to automation as well as manual effort. So there's things we're doing with cameras today, and I only see that expanding.
Perfect. Thank you very much. One question that has come in, and we see this question quite regularly when we're discussing these opportunities with customers. But Philip asks, what is the reliability like of an RFID tag now? And that's open
I could,
guys.
Yeah, I can take that one. So, if we're talking about reliability of when you purchase a roll of, say, 1,000 tags, how many of them are bad? Because that was an issue, 10 years ago. That was a big issue, right? You'd get 1,000 labels, and you might have 5 to 10 bad RFID tags throughout that roll. I mean, in today's world, the way they actually connect the antenna to the IC, these tags, it's more of a paddle connection. So where it used to kind of two dots touching, now it's actually a really solid connection where you can put one of these things up on something and hit it with a broomstick or something. It's not going to break, right? And I think so from terms of the RFID tags being reliable, you can get that 1,000 roll of 1,000 tags and not have any bad tags on there. And some of that goes back to the manufacturing process. When they manufacture the tags, they have checks and balances to make sure that they're actually not sending out tags that aren't good anymore. And you can actually request that when you order tags and say, hey, I want to have tags that have 0 bad tags on there. So there's that, and then in terms of reliability of like one of our RFID portals or RFID solutions, I mean, look, we're not allowed to say really 100%, right? Because there's always going to be an exception, but that's the goal. And that's what we're going for. And that's kind of the experience that our customers get. So it might be 99, 99.5, whatever the percentage is that we're hitting for reliability. The experience feels like 100% to the customer, because usually those exceptions are some kind of a one-off thing that happened, and we can identify them quickly. So usually later down the line with another RFID scan that nobody even has to do. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. I'm kind of conscious of time. We're almost at an end of the webinar, so there's too many questions to kind of run through. I'll just pick one from the chat, and we'll finish on that one. For anyone that we haven't answered, we'll do a follow-up email with everyone's questions, and we'll answer them via email. But this one comes in from Dan, and Dan asks, what are the staffing requirements to implement RFID and maintain the solution? Good question. And again, that's open to you the three of you.
Well, I don't want to take all the answers, but no, I mean, honestly, I think it just depends on your organization and what you have as far as availability. We will need at least one person that's excited about the project and wants to drive it forward. I think that's something that's essential. Every successful RFID project I've ever seen has somebody on the customer side that sees the vision and has an understanding and a goal and a desire to bring the technology in. That's what drives it, is a collaboration. As long as we have that one person, then we can generally backfill any other needs that might be there, whether it's installation or integration or IT services, whatever is needed to roll out the solution. Between the people on this call, we can certainly address those needs. And not just the people on the call, but people behind the people on this call is really what helps for the solution. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you from real world experience, any of the RFID implementations we've done, there's actually been a reduction in the staffing requirements because of the lack of having to get people to look for assets that are lost, because you know exactly where an item is. Certain manufacturers would spend hours and hours looking for items that were lost, like totes we mentioned, or lost products. So I know
Evan's got something to say here, I'm sure, about labor and how we can try to repurpose this, right, Evan? I mean, go ahead.
No. I think you hit it on the head, Joe. I mean, I think there are proven data points about how we can reduce labor. I mean, by like 90% when it comes to like doing inventory. But just the power to have the ability to press a button and know your inventory levels, I mean, is pretty powerful. And I think that that's where this is all headed. And I kind of lost the question there. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, it was just more touching on the fact that, it's a reduction in labor, but what we're finding is we're repurposing these people, right? We're not replacing them.
Yeah.
You talked about it earlier, so that's why I wanted to mention your response earlier to that question. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where we're really having an impact. And I think what's most exciting for me is empowering the teams we work with. So the teams that get comprised with our customer teams, empowering them with where the ROI is at. right? How do we monetize these efficiencies and deliver that information to executive leadership to get our project approved, to get this thing across the line and begin to share the vision of automation and efficiencies that we tend to build this vision with the teams we work with, right? And that's the whole purpose of getting this thing across the line is understanding all of that and working together to bring it all together. And then what we do find is that, yeah, there needs to be somebody to manage the hardware, but everything else we've tried to leave alone, right, Joe? I mean, we really go in and try to not have to require a new team to run our solution, because if we've done our job correctly, we should be really emulating the process you already have. We're just automating it and taking the labor out of it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the RFID acts as the eyes and the ears, watching and observing and collecting the data. And then our system and the solution processes that data and feeds it back into your system. And Ruben, really, I mean, I think that's a key point here. You know, the RFID capabilities of Xemelgo and having that cloud-based platform really reduces the infrastructure needed to roll this out. So you got multi-sites. You don't need to set up a server at each location. We can actually have one centralized cloud-based solution, and that's a differentiator today that we didn't have a few years ago. Ruben, go ahead, man. I think that's.
I mean, generally, we're up and running, you know, at most locations within 1 to 2 weeks from the approval of the project. But you know, generally, you know, once we get on and we're on site, the hardware is installed. Our system is up and running that day. So collecting data and getting information right away. So it's simple. And I think we talked earlier about the crawl, walk, run approach. If you're having any hesitation with RFID, reach out to one of us. Let's have a discussion about it. And you can start with just a few handhelds, as Evan said earlier. Start collecting some data, get some read points on that, and then grow from there at your comfort level.
Excellent. Yeah, and two, when you've got Xemelgo, you've got built-in support, right? So right on the app, you can hit support and get somebody to help with what you need. So,
yep, very intuitive.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, guys. Your timekeeping is impeccable. We're hitting the hour mark, so what we're going to do is we're going to finish it up there. I just want to thank you all again, and for the audience, this is the first in a series of RFID-related webinars that we're going to do. So stay tuned for any further updates. And again, guys, absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time and take care.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.